Okay, so let's start with our lecture 12, where we will continue the discussion that we were having in the last lecture, which was on plastic waste management rules. So, we were looking at how the rules have evolved in India over environmental rules in general, and then we started talking about plastic waste rules in particular. So, in this week again I am just trying to remind you that this week the focus is on plastic waste management rules 2016, and we will also be looking at how Indian rules compare with the global rules. When I say global rules, we'll look at some of the major countries like UK, US, part of US. Every state has trying to come up with their own rules in terms of plastic, and then we'll also be looking at some other countries like Japan or Korea and some other Asian countries. Of course, as you know, we'll have a separate week where we'll talk about China ban and the impact of China ban, global impact, as well as the potential impact on India, because that's a very, very important thing in terms of plastic waste which has happened in last year, and we should discuss it in detail. So, because that has pretty much long term implication. So, plastic waste management rule, just to start where we left earlier, this is if you go online, and we will be posting, I think it's already might be there. If not, it will be there. In every week we are going to post some reading resources. We are posting reading resources for every week, and for this week 3 you will have a copy of this gadget of India, which is on plastic waste management, which came on March 18th 2016, which was a Friday, when this plastic waste management rules was put in this gadget, which published in the gadget after the rules are approved. So, that is just to show you that how the document looks like. So, what were some of the salient points which we tried to talk about in the last video? We'll continue that discussion. As you know, some of the important things that have been done is that minimum thickness has increased from 40 to 50 microns. So, anything 50 microns and above is okay for now, but that also is a risk. It's not that we went from 40 to 50 microns and there is no risk there. Risk is still there, but of course 40 micron is more problematic than 50 microns. So, that's the reason why we moved. Anything above 50 microns will make it much costlier as well. So, see, whenever you are looking at stuff, you cannot as an engineer, especially when we look at any solution, when we try to design anything, there are 3 major aspects that you need to keep in focus. Of course, one is it has to do the function for which you are designing it for. And so, the production has to be the production should be possible of that particular material. Next is of course, if you are including the environmental performance, which is important, you look at the environmental performance, and at the same time you have to look at the economics. So, it is not only environment, the economics also plays a very, very major role. In fact, economics plays a bigger role than the environmental performance, because it has to make sense to the budget of a household, depending on the product, or budget of a country, or budget of a state, budget of a big organization, whatever. So, of course, the economics plays a very major role. Environmental performance are being looked into in recent times, and at the same time you need to look at the operational and maintenance issues of that thing as well. So, it is an optimization of these 3-4 parameters which helps you make a decision in terms of what system or what product or what process you will choose in any engineering application. So, in addition to this 40 to 50 micron, what has happened? We looked at that in the previous video. The responsibility of local bodies and Gram Panchayat has been fixed now. There is a responsibility of the waste generator, kind of getting into extended producer liability or extended producer responsibility, which is called EPR. EPR concept is being introduced, which is introduced in e-waste as well, extended producer responsibility. What does that mean? That if I am the generator of plastic waste, I am generator of product which leads to plastic waste, so I will be responsible for managing that plastic waste. So, I have to pay a part in terms of, when I say pay a part, not only financial, but other aspect as well. So, that EPR concept is being introduced into many things globally in Europe, in some of the Asian countries. This EPR concepts are coming up. Canada as well has some of this EPR concept. There are implementation challenges. There are different models of implementation which will also needs to look into. Some of the EPRs that was done in, for example, in Canada for electronic waste was done in a centralized way, where what they did is they have all these different vendors which sells electronics kind of fund a program that was called, for example, in Ontario, it was Ontario E-Waste Stewardship Program, where they will be paying money, and there will be a semi government entity which will do all the job for kind of managing that particular, help in managing those e-waste as part of the EPR. Not that if Samsung has their own setup, Sony has their own setup, Panasonic has their own setup, rather than having that, let's all this company pay in a pool of money, and that pool, then there will be only one setup, because many times the volume is not great enough for having individual companies set up their own EPR kind of framework. Similar things can be done for plastic too, rather than having Lay's like a Pepsi or other different companies. Even nowadays, if you look at the way this Patanjali is selling their product, they are also contributing to many of the plastic waste which is happening in the country. So all these companies which are selling product which is leading to plastic waste creation can be asked to pay certain amount of money based on the volume that they sell of those kind of products, or and that can be put in a pool of money, where a company which has expertise in the waste management come in picture, government helps that company with that pool of money, and then that's how probably it will be a better waste management, rather than expecting Pepsi and other companies to do their plastic waste management, because Pepsi is not. Pepsi's expertise is making the drinks, drink beverage, making chips, making different products, but their specialty is not in managing plastic waste. There are companies out there which are gaining expertise in plastic waste management. So we can help these companies by taking the money from these plastic waste. I should not say plastic waste producer company. I say the companies whose product actually leads to plastic waste creation. So that's how the concept of the EPR. I think I may have made it clear. If not, that put it on discussion board, and then also we'll have some live session where I can answer your question on that as well. So the concept of what I'm trying to advocate here is, rather than having each company trying to get their own EPR framework, let's bring the different companies together. And we cannot leave it to the companies to do it, because they will never do it. The government has to kind of handhold them and bring them on the same table, try to put a dollar, like a rupee figure, that based on your turnover you have to put this much percentage in this kitty, and that will fund plastic waste management programs. And that can be any companies which can come up with an idea, which expertise to do it, can be evaluated by a technical committee by looking at the financial viability. So there has to be a process in place, and that's how things will evolve. That's how things have evolved in other waste streams in European countries and other places as well, where of course it takes time, but there is at least we'll be in a path which is sustainable path, which can really achieve something, rather than trying to ban those things. Actually doesn't work in a long term unless you have some alternative system in place. Then responsibility of retailers and street vendors have been put in place. You saw that earlier. Registration of shopkeepers, you have to register. Shopkeepers have to register before they give this plastic waste, and that also leads to some of these licenses and other stuff. So think about those small thelawalas, where they are going to register themselves, and that 4,000 rupees, I don't know whether they have to pay 4,000. I hope they don't. They may be much smaller value for them. It should be based on turnover, based on money they make. So, but the street vendor is still they are just trying to get enough money to feed the family, and to expect them to go for registration and all that, I don't think that's going to happen. It will just become a nuisance for and extra income source for the police inspectors or the police officers going around the streets and just trying to ask them, okay, show me your license, and they will not have it, and then there will be a lot of under the table dealings there. Small amounts, but they do add up. So those kind of issues will come up unless you have a system in place for that. So, and the rules applies to waste generator, local body, gram panchayat, manufacturers, importers, producers. So, they try to get all the stakeholders on board in there. Then there are some basic definition is there. What is plastic? It is essentially means material which contains an essential ingredient or a high polymer like polythene, tetraphthalate, high density polyethylene, vinyl, low density polyethylene, polypropylene. So, those are all what is plastic. It is not plastic waste, it is what is there in the plastic material. Now, the plastic waste means that any plastic discarded after use or after their intended use is over. So, that is your plastic waste. So, where you discard, once you discard this plastic, it becomes a waste. So, waste management means the collection, storage, transportation, reduction, reuse, recovery, recycling, composting or disposal of plastic waste in an environmentally safe manner. Now, composting of plastic waste actually not going to happen, although there are some biodegradable plastic claims are there, but those plastic again when you look at their claims, they say it will be degrade, it could be composted in an industrial grade composter. And I myself were working with City of Guelph compost facility, which is at the outskirts of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and we looked at that so called biodegradable plastic degradation in a compost plant, in a city compost plant. And we saw that even after 2-3 cycles, those biodegradable plastic does not really degrade fully. It does get broken down, but it does not really degrade. So, it just becomes a small pieces. So, it is not that they just go away, they just gets broken down into smaller pieces. So, biodegradable plastic it's can be theoretically possible, but practically still it's not working in the existing system. Now, brand owners have been put, these are the different stakeholders, the brand owners, the person or company who sells any commodity under registered brand. Commodity is the tangible item that is bought or sold into marketable goods. Compostable plastic, plastic that undergoes degradation by biological process during composting to yield CO2, inorganic compounds, biomass at a rate consistent with other compostable material. So, that is a very interesting thing. You have to look at it is at a rate which is consistent with other known compostable material, excluding conventional petroplate plastic and does not leave visible, distinguished or toxic residue. So, to have a biodegradable plastic which can do this as of today, practically not possible. So, it is maybe in future, but right now I do not know, I do not think there is any plastic which can degrade at a rate consistent with other known compostable materials. So, because other known compostable material includes what? Food waste, much quicker, yard waste, again they will degrade, yard waste slower than food waste, but it still has some lignin content, that is why slower than food waste, but still it is it will degrade much faster than this compostable plastic, because it's still we are not there yet. We will be there one day for sure. I have all faith on my plastic researchers and product developers around the globe that will be there one day, but those plastics are costly too. So, and when you do composting, you have to look at composting with this biodegradable plastic. If it's a carbon based, which predominantly it will be, you will produce carbon dioxide, CO2. If you have nitrogen, you may produce N2O as well. So, they may be less harmful, but still they are harmful. So, and you have to do the composting process, and you have to make them. So, the process will again be different. So, you need to do something like an LCA study to look at that, how much real environmental benefit you are getting out of that. Is it really, of course, it will get some benefit, but LCA study will help you to determine how much the real environmental benefit, and based on the entire setup that we need to have in place for now for collecting this compostable plastic separately and taking it there. Some of them may make sense, but what I am trying to say that I am not saying that compostable plastic is bad or this is bad. Unfortunately, people try to don't twist or try to take things out of context. What I am trying to say is compostable plastic, even if it comes in existence, will still have some environmental impact. It may be better than traditional plastic. Of course, it should be, that is why we are trying to go that way, and that is what our goal is. But LCA kind of a study will help us find out how much better, how much good we are getting after getting from non-biodegradable plastic to this compostable plastic once we have them, and all the system which will be in place. So, having a systems approach, this non-biodegradable plastic has good calorific value, and if you do it in a, there are some other applications which you will see in the plastic waste management system as well. So, where you will see that it can be managed properly. So, the problem that we have today is not a plastic problem. That is what I was trying to say in one of the previous video. We have a plastic waste management problem. The problem is not of plastic, problem is of plastic waste. If we manage this plastic waste properly, even the existing plastic is not a bad item. It is not that they are evil, they are demon. That is how sometimes it gets projected, unfortunately. It is not. It is the, since we are as a society, we have failed to manage this plastic waste properly. That is what the problem is. It is not the plastic which is a problem. So, you need to understand that. So that is and the consent, there are some consent, there are some legal documents here. Consent for establish, operate, so you have to take some license. What is disintegration? The physical breakdown of the material into a small fragment, but disintegration is not degradation. Disintegration means it is just getting into smaller pieces. Extended producer responsibility is the responsibility of a producer for the environmentally sound management of the product until the end of its life. So, that is what the EPR stand for, responsibility of a producers for the environmentally sound management and environmentally safe management. Facility is the premises used for collection and storage, recycling, processing, disposal. Importer is one who imports, holds an importer, exporter code number. An institutional waste generator will be something like IIT, universities, state government buildings, central government buildings, hospitals, schools, colleges, universities, other place organization, academic, hotels, restaurants, malls, shopping complexes, airports. These are all institutions. So, they are like institutional waste generator. So, they also produce, and they are also part of this plastic waste management rules now. Manufacturer is a person or a unit which engage in production of plastic raw material as by the producer. Then there is a multi-layered packaging. What does that mean? Any material used or to be used for packaging having at least one layer of plastic as the main ingredients in combination with some other layers such as paper, paperboard, polymer material, metallized layers or aluminum foil, either in the form of a laminate or co-extruded structure. So, you see these kind of multi-layer packaging which is used for many applications, especially with aluminum foil and other things. We saw that plastic do so up. Producer is a person which is engaged in manufacture or import of these plastic bags, multi-layered plastics, plastic sheets or covers made of plastic sheets, multi-layered packaging, wrapping and all that. Recycling is the process of transforming segregated plastic waste into new product or raw material of producing new products. Registration, again you have to register for the State Pollution Control Board. The street vendors shall have the same meaning as assigned to in clause in subsections 2 of Street Vendor Livelihood Regulation of Street Vending Act. And I don't want you to go in those details right now. That's not our kind of mandate for this course. But one thing is that the street vendors are also covered. So, that is what I wanted you to know. Local bodies is urban local body, ULBs with a different nomenclature based on population. It could be municipal corporation, it could be municipality, it could be Nagar Palika, it could be Nagar Nigam, Nagar Panchayat, and it all depends on the population of that particular town or city, and not limited to any other local body, which is and also the Gram Panchayat, plastic waste is instructed to them. Waste generator includes each one of us, every person, a group of person or institution, residential, commercial, Indian Railways, Air Force, airport, port and harbor, defense, that is the Air Force, military, which generates plastic waste. So, all of them are included. Waste management is the collection, storage, transportation, reduction, reuse, recovery of and recycling, composting or disposal of plastic waste in an environmentally safe manner. So, that is what is known as waste management. It's true for other waste, like with similar rules, similar languages there for e-waste, similar languages there for municipal solid waste. Waste pickers or individual or agencies, group of individuals voluntarily engaged or authorized for picking up recyclable plastic waste. So, here essentially those rack pickers which you also talk about, those are the waste pickers. And then we also have a group of kabadiwalas are also there too. So, as you see on the top, those titles like conditions as per rule number 4, these are all the rule. If you go to that Gadget of India document which I showed you, which is also there in your reading material for this particular week, it's basically referring to that particular rule number from that gadgets, and then what we have tried to do in these set of slides is try to just summarize some of the stuff from those gadgets in a way, so that you get the message across and it doesn't become too boring for you as well. So, carry bags or plastic packaging should be in natural state. You should not too much pigments added, because pigments have those heavy metals and made only using those pigments which are as per the Indian standards. So, there are a list of pigments and colorants, because they come in contact with food stuff, they come in pharmaceuticals, drinking water pipes and all that. So, you have to have certain rules. So, for that there is some rules out there. Then carry bags, if it is mixed for recycled plastics or products, will not be used for storing, carrying, dispensing, packaging, ready to eat or drink food items stuff. So, that is for recycled plastic. And many countries around the world actually allows that. In India we do not, but many countries around the world do allow usage of like a material of recycled plastic in these kind of containers. And Germany, for example, has they were having plastic bottles which could be washed and refilled in a Coca-Cola, for Pepsi and those kind of things for few times, like 7, 8, or some bottles have been used up to 12 times. So, it's not that they don't, but in Indian context right now it is not possible to do that. Carry bag made of virgin or recycled plastic, again shall not be less than 50 micron. So, which is kind of the which is the 50 micron is the size. So, many grocery stores now you go, they do carry bags above 50 micron. So, they are bags which is above 50 micron size, and they use it instead of using those thin bags. So, this 50 micron size bags are slightly thicker, but still it's an environmental issue. It's not that 110 microns does make a difference, but again it's not that problem is gone. Then plastic sheet, which is not an integral part of metal layer packaging, plastic wrapping, again they should be less than 50 microns in thickness, except where thickness of such plastic sheets impair the functionality. Manufacturers shall not sell or provide or arrange plastic to be used as raw material to a producer, or not having valid registration from Pollution Control Board. Sachet using plastic materials shall not be used for storing, packaging, selling gutkas, tobaccos or pan masalas, because again but they do many times have very fine layer of plastic there, because otherwise just with the paper kind of product it is difficult to keep the freshness in there. The reason plastic will act as a barrier for moisture movement, and they do not want moisture to get in there and make those product get bad over time. So, that is why they are still kind of used a little bit. So, for ULBs they have to take recyclable plastic waste and non-recyclable. Recyclable plastic waste which can go to registered plastic waste recycler. Again these things the rules have been in place for quite more than 2 years, like almost 2 years now, but still if to find a plastic waste registered recycler even in big cities, you will not find that much. We do not have a there are some which many of them are not functional that much. So, what I am trying to say that the focus rules are great, but at the same time a lot of focus is needed in developing the infrastructure, so that these rules can really be implemented. The problem comes because we are not able to implement these rules. Rules could be strict, but if you cannot be implement, there is no point of having that rule in my view. It is better to have a relatively simpler rule which is easy to implement, and then add layer of complexity on top of that, rather than having a very complex, very hard rule which cannot be implemented. So, the ultimate result becomes a big zero, because we cannot really do and we do not implement those rules. So, non-recyclable plastic waste, the local bodies should encourage energy recovery, road construction, waste to oil, Then thermoset plastics, they say that processed and disposed of according to standards and pollution control norms, sorry, and inert from recycling and processing facility disposed of as per solid waste management rules 2016. So that's kind of what ULBs have been advised as part of this rule, as per rule number 5, that you can do with these 4 broader categories for recyclable plastic, non-recyclable, thermoset or inerts. So this is what you can go for. Responsibilities have been assigned for all different stakeholders. For example, for the local body, you make sure the segregation is there, collection, storage, transportation, processing. No damage is caused to the environment during this process, which is kind of a very big term. Ensure channelization of recyclable plastic fraction to recycler. Now, I don't know how they will be able to do that, because it's very difficult, like how to ensure channelization of recyclable plastic to recyclers once we don't even know who are the registered recyclers. So first we need to have those registered recyclers. Ensuring processing and disposal or non-recyclable fraction of plastic waste as per guideline from CPCB. So that's again, we need to have infrastructure. For example, I want to do energy from waste, but we need to have energy from waste facility. We want to build roads from those plastic waste. We need to have roads construction being happening in that area at that particular time, and pretty much every little bit of road every time, because if you have to carry this plastic waste for several hundred kilometers to get this to use in road, the amount of energy that you will use for transporting it, that itself is will also have certain environmental footprint. So we need to look at systems approach. Creating awareness among stakeholders about their responsibility, that's very, very important. Not only awareness, I will say awareness is okay, but also giving them tools on how to implement this rule. They teach them the technical stuff, the basic technical stuff at their whatever is needed for their level of responsibility in terms of plastic waste management. Engaging civil societies and group working with waste pickers, yeah, that is happening in other waste stream as well, and that can be done, but these things are also have limitations. See, waste management sector, including this plastic waste management sector, is not a very lucrative business. We keep on talking about waste to wealth, which is kind of a, I feel in country like India, that's practically it's kind of not really possible, where you will make a lot of wealth out of the waste. Once we have a good waste management system in place, source segregation in place, where the value, there is some value in the way. Right now, with all the heterogeneity, mixed waste stream that we have, I don't see any private party able to make a lot of money. Those private parties which come, they come for some other purpose. They don't have, either they are unaware, they are ignorant, which I don't think they are, but they could be, but most of the time they come because they just want to grab that piece of land, or there is something other than making a viable working waste management system, unless they go for some sort of segregation. Otherwise, yeah, you can go for some maybe incineration if you have enough calorific value, which most of the Indian cities don't. And then you can go for landfilling, engineered landfill, which is kind of not really a solution, but yes, but at the present time with the mixed waste, that may be one of the best option to go for, but not a long term solution. Ensuring that open burning of plastic waste does not take place, okay, but how to make sure when the waste is totally mixed up. And I see that during the winter times, which recently in the winter months, people were burning waste here and there, and then there will be plastics in that. So it's again knowledge, making people aware that why not to burn plastic. It's just saying to people that okay, don't do open burning of plastic, but why? Of course, why? What is the harm? How it is going to affect my health? Those things people want to learn. So similarly, responsibility of the Gram Panchayat. So let's with this we'll go over this and then kind of close this particular video and then continue discussion in the next. I think we'll probably need another video to finish this rules and regulation part. So every Gram Panchayat, either on its own or engaging an agency, shall set up, operationalize and coordinate for waste management in rural area under their control and for performing the associated functions. What are that? They have to ensure collection, storage, transportation of plastic waste, channelization of recyclable plastic waste, no damage caused to the environment, which is again, these are very vague terms. What do you mean by no damage to the environment? Any activity you do, there will be some impact. Creating awareness among all stakeholders. Okay, but how? Who will do it? Who will pay for that? Ensuring that open burning of plastic does not take place. Again, the same thing. But see, if somebody is burning plastic in their backyard, how to ensure that? It's not we have to, once these can be done only through providing knowledge to the community that why plastic waste should not be burned, and many of these things will be part of the municipal solid waste management rules as well. Just doing it for plastic waste doesn't really make sense. It will be for all the waste stream which is produced in the rural area, which is being looked into as part of Swachh Bharat mission, which we will talk about in the next video as well. Swachh Bharat mission rural, Swachh Bharat mission urban, we'll talk a little bit about that in the next video and how they are also part of this whole thing, because ultimately plastic waste is part of municipal solid waste in most part, is whether it's in rural or in urban areas. So it will be part of the municipal solid waste management plan as well. So this plastic waste rule needs to be followed and become part of the municipal waste solid waste management. Then only, otherwise we don't want a duplication of the system that will be needing more resources, and doesn't really make sense, because the volume just for plastic waste is not there to have a separate system altogether. So with that, let's stop here. And we will be continuing discussion on the rules, Indian as well as the global rules over this week. So we have finished lecture 12. We will start with lecture 13 in the next video, which will be another 3 lectures for this particular week, which then will cover the rules part. Again, I will strongly encourage you to put your thoughts, put your comments, put any new reading material, any new exciting articles that you come across, exciting reports that you come across related to this particular course on plastic waste management and the different aspects. I'll put it on discussion board for the link, and it will be really helpful. As I said in the beginning of the course, there is no set textbook on plastic waste management. So we are trying to gather information from different sources, collate it together, trying to put together a nice story to tell you about this plastic waste management. And the goal of this particular course is actually to raise awareness about this plastic waste management, so that we can implement these rules in a nice manner in this country. So that's actually the ultimate goal, so that people should be aware what are the real risks from plastic waste, what are the different options in which we can manage plastic waste in the country. So with that, I would close this particular video. Thank you very much, and I will see you again in the next. Thank you.